Welcome to the Prime People Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Konikow, and on this podcast, we interview experts from around the globe that are crushing it in their respective niches to inspire you. And maybe today you're looking to be inspired to your job, get into real estate, or you're in real estate and really trying to figure out how to crush it. Well, we have an amazing guest for you. We have Kristina LeGault, and she's from Chilliwack, BC, and she quit her job, got into real estate, and really, we're going to dig into how she did it, what she's finding success in. Very competitive landscape. Don't let the news fool you. If you get your license, it's not a business you can just walk into and you'll start crushing it. A lot of agents are actually getting in the business and then having a really tough time getting traction because it is so competitive out there. So I'm really excited to get into this conversation. I know Kristina through the Serhant program as well. So anybody that's aligned with Ryan Serhant and the team is family, and we actually get together all the time on a regular basis with other top mentees and discuss strategy, and she always has something interesting to add to the conversation. So not going to waste any more time. Let's get right into the episode. Welcome to the Prime People Podcast, where we cover all things that got us to where we are today, our team building strategies, the marketing and sales tips that we've learned through thousands of transactions, productivity tips, ways to really just hold yourself accountable to accomplishing what you want to accomplish, and all things content creation, personal development, and not to mention we have some of the best guests on the planet. And we definitely have one of the best guests on the planet today. Kristina, how are you doing?
I'm good, Justin. How are you today?
I'm very well. I'm used to seeing
Excellent.
that backdrop in the private group chats, but now the public gets to see it live. So why don't you tell the audience whereabout you're based out of and what type of business you do out there?
So I am based out of Chilliwack, which is actually considered part of the Fraser Valley. So as you kind of in southern BC, make your way through the lower mainland and into the Fraser Valley, we would be about an hour and 15, 20 minutes directly from downtown Vancouver. So we are out here in a suburb, Chilliwack again. And of course, it's growing like crazy out here. So it's, in BC, we saw huge growth in Surrey and Langley about 20, 30 years ago. And now Chilliwack is the Surrey and Langley in today's atmosphere.
Well, that's exciting. Our little live stream is popping off. So we got Matt Lamarche saying, hey, happy Thursday. Nice to see you. Matt's on LinkedIn. We also have John Papalani. Nice to see you, John. And Christy Jenkins. She found it. There you go. That's
good. Awesome. Old Christy.
That's so good. So if you're watching this, we stream on 3 different platforms. So we're on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. You can go find me on Facebook. We typically stream it from there. We have a couple private groups as well. And then the Facebook or the YouTube or the LinkedIn platform, you can actually come on and ask questions live. But I mean, let's get started with your story. 20 years plus in accounting. You had a good job. What made you quit that job and get into real estate?
Well, accounting and finance, very, very exciting. So yeah, I did that for over 20 years, mostly worked corporate accounting. So not doing tax returns and things, but actually working on the business side, mostly in Vancouver. Was out there for quite some time, but sometimes so I was in my early 40s and I never felt like I was going to retire from working in accounting and finance. And that was definitely the path. I was getting promoted, job security, benefits, all that good stuff. And, I'm sure like everyone, life kind of changes and you kind of think like, I'm really not enjoying getting up every morning and going to work and doing the grind. And accounting, funny enough, is very competitive just within your own colleagues and whatnot. So it was always a very kind of interesting, stressful career to have. And I learned so much working in accounting. And I've always loved numbers. I love money. What can I say? My dad used to teach me math in terms of dollars, and all of a sudden it clicked when I was like 10. So we kind of got to a point where, we had some medical issues to deal with, some other things to deal with, and we really needed to live somewhere that was a little bit quieter, a little bit low key. So that's how we ended up in Chilliwack. We moved out here in 2015. And we've been loving it. It's a great town to live in. And I just kind of said to my husband, I'm like, real estate was something I always had a huge interest in. on the weekends, I used to build Lego houses. My mom and I always went shopping for house decor. My mom sold real estate. My grandfather was a builder in Victoria. My dad and my grandfather built one of our houses growing up. And my mom was always like, we were always on the move. My mom would drive to, a new subdivision and come home and be like, Johnny, we're selling our house and we're moving over here. So I think I got a lot of it also just from being with my mom and taking on her interest as well. And, I always dreamed about my house, what my house would look like when I was an adult. So, early 40s, I just kind of been thinking about it for a while. And, I thought about it when I was about 35, talked to, a couple of family members. Everyone thought I was totally crazy. Why would you leave a stable job? And I just kind of came home one day and I said to my husband, you know what? I think I'm just going to take the real estate exam. I'm going to do the course. And I started doing the course. And then I just kind of thought, you know what? Screw it. My job sucks. And I quit my job. And I was like, kind of just focused on taking the course, did that. And it was really scary, but it was also one of the best things I ever did.
That's awesome. And I think I've seen that story before, right? Where somebody feels like they're looking for fulfillment. They're looking for purpose and obviously passion. And there's no one right solution for anybody, right? I think sometimes people, they're looking for the easy button, or they're looking for, I'm just going to get into this industry. And you probably see it from the other side of the spectrum now, where people that see you, they're like, I'm just going to get my real estate license. You're like, okay, grass isn't always greener. Maybe you can give a little bit of perspective of your entry into the industry. Like, did you find success right away? If so, what did you do to attain the success, or what roadblocks did you have to overcome?
So it's definitely hard getting into real estate. And I think, like you say, Justin, a lot of people look at it and they think it's easy. And all of a sudden you have all these clients and you're just banging out house sales and there's no problems. It's just easy breezy, which it totally is not. For me, so us moving to a city, we didn't know anybody here. So that was a bit of a tough one. I didn't have a built-in network. I didn't know people. I wasn't involved in the community. So I actually started out on a team, which I thought would be a really good way to get an introduction to the business, learn from some people who'd been selling for a few years, also learn what kind of agent did I want to be, and also, things to do, things not to do. But really getting started was, it's a lot of hard work, and you have to be really diligent that you're still going to get up every day. You're going to have a structure, you're going to have a routine, but you're also going to get yourself out there. And I'm really quite a bit of an introvert. So that part of it was challenging to really kind of, okay, I've got to do this. I'm going to go talk to people. And I'm always really good one-on-one with people. Large crowds of people, no thank you. And still don't really like large crowds of people. But just getting out, I really worked. I had an opportunity to get in a resale building, which actually was leaky condo. So the units were cheap. Everyone was about to get like a $60,000 levy on the building to do the repairs. Oh, wow. I got one listing in there and I just worked the hell out of that building. And the other thing I really did was when people came to see it, I told them exactly what was going on. So It was just like, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to give you all the information. You can make whatever decision you want to make. All the pros and cons up front. But that one building actually really helped me because, you get those calls for your listings. And like Ryan always says, I follow up with people. I answer them right away. And at the beginning, especially, and I still do it today, one of the biggest things where I've been able to get clients is just strictly by calling people back right away, answering their emails, giving them the information and making it about them. So, it's hard to get started. And sometimes you think where did I actually get all these clients from? And if you can kind of get yourself in an area, become the expert, maybe in a building or maybe in the neighborhood, and talk to everybody who, people would always just come down in the elevator and be like, oh, are you a real estate agent? And all the people in the building would ask me questions. And I always took the time to stop and answer their questions. And that really helped, especially in the beginning.
I can imagine. I mean, I heard so many good things in there that you pointed out, right? One is you enter the business and you realize, well, nobody's going to show you how to do it on your own. It's crazy in real estate. You get licensed, like there's no apprenticeship program. There's no, you
No.
have to, work with this person for so long before you can actually develop some type of business of your own. And it's scary sometimes because you see agents going out there just trial by fire with other people's contracts and money. So I respect you for doing that. And that's a big part of what we try and do here is put systems in place so that not only me as a resource, but they have other people around them that can help lift them up and show them different ways of doing things. You niche down. So I really want people to write that down in terms of saying like, okay, instead of me trying to be everything to everybody, I'm going to pick the one building maybe nobody wants, sell that whole thing. And if I could sell that, I'll sell everything else. But you did a great job. And you also showcased that acting ethically will earn you people's trust long-term. I just had a developer in here. Actually, we were sitting down meeting and talking, and I was telling him what not to buy, even though he's in buying mode and might acquire a whole bunch of stuff. Like I'm not going to sell him something that isn't going to move him forward because yes, I may make money short-term, but long-term, I'm really, really going to lose. And then you went out and did it. You became an expert in your market. We did have a question from our boy, Matt LaMarche in ATL. Oh, he's on LinkedIn and Facebook. I appreciate the support, Matt, very much. And you'll get it back in kind. How did your last role lead you well into real estate? Your last role was accounting from a corporate level, correct?
Yes. So, a lot of people, sometimes you think it's really a weird shift to go something so corporate into so people focused and sales. And really my job in accounting, I also had a people job there. Like our role in accounting is to provide information to the rest of the company so that everybody can make an informed decision based on, costs, what's actually making money, what's not making money, where are the dollars going. So I think the biggest thing I learned there was being a provider of information and just really taking the time to answer people's questions, because to me, all that stuff was kind of second nature. It's numbers, it's financial statements. I understand it. Not everybody else understands it or has a huge interest in it, but to really work with all the different kind of sets of people and explain things and just really work on my communication skills in terms of giving people information. And one other thing that I really learned from there, well, actually there's two. So one of them is, of course, you deal with all sorts of different people because we're dealing with people in multiple types of departments. So really kind of gearing, okay, I've got this type of personality. This is how they need to be dealt with. And this is how I need to communicate with them. Whereas this person could be the total opposite. So adapting to how people need you to communicate. And I would say the last thing that was amazing is just the structure, because like you were saying, when you get your real estate license, you're kind of thrown into it. You get your license, you go sign up at a brokerage, and then it's, well, now what am I supposed to do with myself? I got to go get clients. Who do I talk to? How do I get them? Like, how do I put all my stuff together, my contracts? So working in that corporate environment really gave me a lot of structure where, you have to be at work at a certain time. You had to have certain things produced on a daily basis, but also working corporately, we had a lot of structure in place and we did a lot of those types of projects. So I've been able to use all of that into my real estate business, which has been huge.
Yeah, you're the silent assassin. You
That's
always
right.
show up with the right questions, right? And it's funny, a lot of people, the misconception about me is that I'm a massive extrovert because of the content I put out and doing stuff like this. I'm probably more like you than I am an extrovert. Large crowds of people. I ran hospitalities in restaurants for a long, long time. So I got desensitized. But I think there is something to be said about your approach, right? You're very tactile in terms of how you look at things, even when you're talking about communication methods with client. I think that's a great point for people that are watching here, being thoughtful about how you're following back with people. You mentioned earlier that follow back and that phone call was really where a lot of your business came from. I was interviewing a guy, and I'll connect you with the REC team. His name, Tyler Walburn, yesterday. And he said, man, despite Facebook ads, Google ads, everything else, he's like, if you can pick up that phone and just call people, he's like, that's where everything's going to come from. And I said, man, you're so right. Because so many agents come into the business and they're like, I need more buyers, I need more sellers, yet they have hundreds of people in their database that they haven't called for 6 or 7 months, right? And what is your methodology behind your follow back? Like, how often do you touch a lead before you just say, hey, this person's never going to do something with me? Or how often do you talk to past clients? Is that structured, or do you have a methodology around that?
That is sort of, it's been like a subconscious structure because it's kind of just in my nature, because I also care about, like, how are they liking living in their home and how are they doing? And, like, I'll always follow up with people like a couple of days, the day they move in, a couple of days later, then a couple of weeks after that. Like, I think, like you say, having your database, you already have all these relationships established with all these people you've done a transaction with. And some of them end up being good friends of yours. And some you have a better relationship with. Some people are a little bit more kind of, it's transactional. I basically follow up with everyone. I would say my really good, strong clients, I do stuff for Halloween for their kids. I do their Christmas stuff. Like, I'll probably talk to them about every other month just to say hello. Or if I'm driving by someone's neighborhood, I'll be like, oh, it's just, send them a text. I was in your neighborhood. Your house is looking great. So it's kind of, it's more of a constant thing. Like, and once a month I download my database and I kind of go through everyone. And then someone who maybe, I haven't talked to them for a while, I'll contact them just to say hi. And, I think the biggest thing is just like, what we were kind of saying a little bit earlier is when people call you, they just want to feel like their value and you value their time. So, and I still do that to this day. Like, I try to make it, my goal is always, I get back to you within an hour or two.
And
even if it's just,
yeah. How do you do that as you scale? Like, as you do more business, because you're top 2%, right? And it's a lot.
So yeah. So what my trick is, that if I'm at a showing or I've gone to someone's house to, give them a price, talk about listing, when I get back into my car, I always check my phone. And if someone has left me a message, I answer them. And it's either answering them with their question. If they want something more in depth, I'll just say, hey, I still have a couple of more appointments tonight. This is when I'm going to get back to you. And I think as long as people know when they can expect to hear something from you, they're totally happy with that, because people understand that, you're busy and you have other things to do. And I think one of the best things someone ever said to me the other night was, I went over to their house to help them get it ready to sell. And she said to me, I know you're super busy and you have tons of clients, but you made me feel like I was your only client.
Amazing.
So that for me was like the absolute best thing I could ever hear.
Yeah, one of the greatest tricks I ever heard was just phone down on the table. Like, nothing is worse than sitting in a meeting with somebody and then the agent's sitting on his phone just texting away, not even present or not even seeing what's happening. We have a bunch of people here and a bunch of comments. And Kyle Henry, actually, you should connect with him. He's on my team. Awesome guy. He said, hi, everybody. So excited for this one. We also have a random Facebook user that's really excited about the conversation. Fun fact, if you're watching this on StreamYard or Facebook and you want to comment and have your little profile photo pick up, all you got to do is actually allow StreamYard to showcase your Facebook stream or hop on the YouTube and we'll see you there. John Papaloni had a question, though, I think that's right in the pocket of what we're talking about. And he says, with the market being as hot and active as it is, with crazy schedules, how do you plan your day typically? And he's got a point, right? It's madness out there. You got to be quick on the draw. So how do you plan your days or structure your days typically? And thank you, John, for the question.
So I do a lot like what Ryan does. I kind of plan. So I start planning the night before. I kind of look at, and I still use an old school day timer, just because for me, I find actually physically writing things down also helps it go into my memory bank.
Sure.
So the night before, I do work a lot. Like, I cannot get my job done in a 7-hour day and provide the level of service that I want to. And so that's also a choice that I've made. And like, if I have a choice between doing something social or working, I will always choose work which I know that's a whole other conversation. But
no, it isn't. It isn't though, right? Like it takes a specific type of crazy to do what we do, right? And I say that all the time. Like not everybody's built for it, and it's not a good or a bad thing. It's what's right for you. I really enjoy what I do, and I sometimes feel like I'm not even working, which sounds crazy because after I do this, right, we're doing this for 45 minutes or so. I've got a hammer, right? And I think if I didn't have a job that required so much from me, I drive my wife nuts, right? And I think we need to be in your power, right? And be happy with what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same. And it's so, and I think a lot of my accounting background and probably a lot of why I went into accounting is because I am one of those crazy organized type people. So I start the night before. I kind of have a layout to my day. There's always some things that I can't get to, but I keep like a running list of, and more so, here's what I really want to accomplish during the week. And then hopefully I can kind of fit those in between showings. I have someone who helps me as well, just with some, certain like, signage and lock boxes and, maybe doing some shopping, things like that. But I think it's really like I get up at 6 and I do try to exercise in the morning, although it doesn't always happen because I tend to just get too involved in work. So I'm trying to change that and get a little bit more routine with there. But I really, you start early. I've got my appointment.
What time do you typically get up at?
At 6.
Okay. So
I do not want to get up at 5.
That's okay. You don't have to. That's awesome. I'm going to send you a couple Clubhouse rooms actually that I'm in where they're doing sessions at that time. And it's just fun to hear, some put a queue in place too, to help you do the things that you want to do. Right. And only to the level that you really feel like you need to do them. I have a health and fitness coach I hired to help me with a couple things. And I've been communicating with him a lot lately, and thank you for the comment, Matt. Matt's a really good dude too. Amazing nuggets of information. Keep crushing it, Justin, Kristina. And, the conversation I had with him recently was like, I want my diet to be perfect. I want my schedule to be perfect. I want all these things to be perfect. And he's like, but that's not your goal, right? He's like, what we talked about was really about longevity, healthier relationship with food and mobility. And he's like, so like body composition right now isn't necessarily something you're worried about. So why are you pressed if you go get takeout for a day? And I'm like, this is coming from somebody that's in the health and fitness space. And I think there's something to be said for that, where, I'm a very organized person and structured. My wife is the complete opposite. I think knowing your strengths and playing in that makes sense, but getting around other people that are playing in their strengths and seeing maybe what's out of your comfort zone that you can be doing, like this podcast, for example, like you coming on here, is that something that's innate to you, or is that something that's a little bit out of your comfort zone? I'd love to know.
Oh, totally outside of my comfort zone.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But you're killing it. And it's so funny, right? Because now you get out of your comfort zone. It's like, well, what about Matt LaMarche interviewing you, or Matt Kelly, or Kyle Henry, or Christy? Like the possibilities that can come from actually just stepping out of your comfort zones are pretty awesome. And you talked about the schedule. I want to go back to one piece because I had a question that I think the audience will appreciate. You're like, well, there's certain things that form a part of my schedule. And I understand finder, keeper, doer. But what are the integral, like maybe 5 things that you do daily that you think have led to consistent growth in your business?
I think one is really just getting up and focusing that I'm working today. Mm-hmm. And I think another one is I really think about, what deals do you currently have on the go, and what do I need to follow up with those? Like, is there an inspection? Do we need to follow up to make sure that the lender is on task and getting their financing approved? Or, do they have questions about the property that they're buying? So, that's kind of a real, like daily structure. Like, who do I really need to speak with today? Like, who's looking at property? What buyers do I have that they're looking for something specific? Can I call some other agents and see if they've got something coming up, especially since we do have such low inventory and it's hard to find things at the moment. And I think, like what you were just saying, even about, you have to have some time there because sometimes things go totally sideways and you haven't allocated that in your day.
Everything goes sideways. I'm having one of those days today, but yeah, I know.
Yeah. And I think that's another thing we were having at the beginning of the conversation. When you sell real estate, people don't realize how many problems you're actually solving behind the scenes. And so I always kind of leave a little bit of, I don't schedule my day like a crazy person, but I schedule my day so that I've got certain things I've got to make sure I get through. Most important being clients, communication, showings, appointments. But also like, I know stuff's going to go totally out the window. So I had that yesterday, everything kind of just went out the window, and in between appointments, I was dealing with hopefully getting a subject removal on a deal.
We're like air traffic controllers and firefighters.
Totally. It's always like
people.
Just go here and we'll do this. Yeah.
It's crazy. But I think one key point though is, because I do schedule my life like a crazy person. Like if you looked at the amount of calendars and time blocks I have, but the reason I say that it's good to have some structure, and it doesn't have to be mine or it doesn't have to be yours, it's whatever speaks to the person, is if you hit that structure, even 50% of the time or 40% of the time or 60, because I'm far from perfect, when you do have those days, the catch up isn't as big. Where sometimes the catch up for somebody that has no structure and no systems in place, they give up and they just like, I quit. I can't do this anymore. There's just too many things happening. You can really compartmentalize. But have you faced adversity in your business? Like, have you had moments in your life where you're like, man, this is a lot, and how did you push through that? Because I know the answer is yes. I want to know how you push through more. How
I do that. So, okay, this is probably going to be a strange answer, but like I have an odd set of coping mechanisms.
Okay.
And so I can deal with like huge amounts of stress and just kind of, it's almost like I get tunnel vision on it. And so all this stuff is coming at me. There's all this stuff. And I think part of it is, so a couple of years ago, all sorts of crazy stuff going on. And a lot of it was just completely out of our control, like medical, completely out of our control. It couldn't really, you just kind of had to go through it. And it was such a stressful period. Kind of one day I was, you know what? I have absolutely, and type A, you like your control and you like everything in a box. And I just thought to myself, I have absolutely no control of what's going on. I can't think about what might happen. So I'm just going to totally focus on exactly what's happening right now and what's happening today. So, with work, sometimes you feel like, oh my God, like I just can't, like, this is ridiculous. People are being ridiculous. People make things complicated. Things come out of left field. Just, just weird requests, like all of a sudden.
Real life. Yes. Exactly. Certain things pop up. You're like, there's no way. This is the Truman Show. The curtain's going to drop and the cameras are going to show up. Yeah.
And it's like, you're worried about a $20 carbon monoxide detector that you can go pick up at the Home Depot. And now the inspection was terrible, so what I do is, and like I said, like I have a weird set of coping skills. So I just kind of go into this mode of, okay, what is the problem? What is the solution? And that's all I focus on. Is this a big picture thing? Is it a small picture thing? And at the end of the day, we're not dealing with people dying or people having horrible life situations. Like, we want to make sure that they're spending a huge amount of money.
Sure. And
that they're comfortable and they feel good about their decision. But like in terms of handling stuff, I just I tunnel vision it. If I have a really, really horrible day, I will let myself have my little pity party for the day. And then the next day, you
have to do that.
Sometimes you do. I'm just like, you know what? I'm not talking to anyone. I'm going to go watch really terrible, mind-numbingly dumb TV. And I'm going to wallow and maybe have a bowl of ice cream. But tomorrow is a new day and I'm just going to start fresh.
Everything in moderation, including
Right.
moderation. Again, you need to have perspective. That mind-numbing TV, we could rattle off 50 reality shows that are like, how are
Exactly.
these real things? But they'll give you that disconnect that you need sometimes, I
Yeah.
think, to
And
reset
some
and
perspective.
recalibrate. It does. And this brings the conversation full circle, right? Because the whole topic of this is like, well, how do you quit your job and get into real estate? And I think it's a title that's eye-catching, hopefully, and hopefully gets millions of views one day. But really, it's more so, we're not even really talking about real estate specifically. We're looking at how can you find passion and purpose in what you do? You're going to have adversity. How do you deal with the adversity?
Totally.
How do you go into an industry? It doesn't matter if it's real estate or otherwise. You learn from people who've done it before you. That's part of the reason we know each other, is we just get around really cool people doing different things and start thinking of ways to collaborate. And how do you continue to grow, which is my next question, right? Because you found a level of success. You could be happy just saying, look at my numbers, but I see you searching. I see you looking for, well, what's next, and wanting to try different things. Like, where is that innate curiosity come from, I guess? And what are you currently learning maybe that is out of your comfort zone?
Well, I think, it's been really good being involved just in the whole like SurFam and the pro membership and everything, because there's so much stuff in there I would never have done. And that's in terms of just things, like putting yourself out there on social media. Like if it
Sure.
wasn't for work, I really enjoy Instagram now, but I probably wouldn't be on it. I'd probably just be consuming it.
Yep.
So, doing, getting out there, getting more out in the community in a different way, instead of maybe behind the scenes, in a little bit more of a public way. And, I think I've always, once I hit a goal, I don't feel let down. I don't feel, sometimes people really build it up and then they're like kind of deflated when they hit it. Sort of when I hit it, I'm like, okay, so I was able to do that. What can I actually do next? And so I'm always just kind of, thinking too, like, all of us as humans have so much potential to do things. And if you work hard enough at it and you put the time into it and you have a general curiosity for learning, no matter what industry you're in, and, like you're saying, you just kind of get up and quit your job because you want to do something interesting. And it's super scary. And we overanalyze it to death. Like, this could happen, that could happen. How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to do this? What if I never get a job? What if I never get a client? And sometimes you just have to like leave all that behind and just like, you just do it and you go and you work. And, for growing my business, like, I feel like, hey, I could actually, I could do more. I have the capacity to do more. And I know also too, like, I'm very focused on customer service. So there's lots of times when I'll tell my client, they're like, well, maybe I should move. I'm like, why would you want to move? Like, your house gives you your lifestyle. It gives you functionality. It gives you everything you need. You've got this, and this. Why would you want to move? So I also kind of sometimes feel like people should use me, because I know what it's like working with some other agents who just want to get you sold, and who are, they hate that house, but that means I can sell it again in a year and sell them something else. So
again,
sometimes
big hearts for Matt Kelly on that one. I think, it's the reality. And as you're talking, I kind of tuned out for a second. I'm like, well, what she's saying about the house applies to your job, right?
Yeah.
Like, why do you want to quit your job? Like, what do you think you're going to find in this job that's really going to give you purpose that you're not finding in your current job? And I think it has more to do with your outlook at life, of how many times do people think, man, when I get this many sales, or when I get this car, or I know a guy that won a world title in a fighting championship, and he's like, man, when I get this, then everything changes. And he got it, and he woke up the next day. He's like, I'm the same guy. Yeah, it felt good for an hour yesterday, but it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
my question to you though is, you got your 80%, you know exactly what to do to generate business, to follow up, follow back, follow through. Like, there's probably 20% of your energy that maybe you're reading a course, or reading a book, or taking a course, or like maybe you're getting into crypto. I have no idea. Is there anything that's like way out to left field, or something coming down the pipeline that you're putting some energy into? I'd love to know.
Well, we've got something I'm working on that's still not quite, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess what I'll say is working on some next steps that we're not quite ready to discuss, but hopefully something big coming for next year. We're just kind of trying to work out the kinks there, where it'll give more exposure, because I think that's the biggest thing, you know, when you sell real estate is really just having that exposure and people knowing what you do and getting to know you. So one big goal I have for next year is to, and this is another one, is to work on development. That's something I've always wanted to do. And we've got some great developments in the city that I live in coming up and whatnot. And I'm sure, you know, Justin, it's always hard to get in there. So that is one thing where I feel, you know, growing your business. But I think ultimately, like for me, I feel like I have the capacity to do more. And like you're saying, you know, you have to also, you know, maybe quitting your job and totally doing a 380 isn't the right move. Maybe you just need to work at a different company, but in your same career. And for me, it was I always loved houses. I love decorating. We've moved multiple times, like bought and sold so many times. And part of it was just like, oh, you know, it's fun. Like, so now I get to do this with people every day, and it's fun for me. So like you, it doesn't always feel like work. It is just like I'm getting to help people find a home that they're going to be excited about and happy to live in.
It's so key. You broke down a few things too, where I think people can find inspiration in those next steps. And, you know, maybe it is quitting your job. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it is getting development. Maybe it's not. Again, I think going back to what we just said, like you're looking to grow and see what skill set it may take to launch into that world, or maybe launch whatever product you're doing next year, and you'll adjust and you'll see if it's right for you or not. Some people, you know, they end up getting into developments and then they realize, well, I'm just getting a job with a builder, and that, you know, the compensation and being at the behest of somebody else isn't necessarily what I want. But I think you can bring the Kristina flavor to it and do it in your own unique way. As far as the project, if there's anybody that you need as a sounding board or you need some back end help, you let me know. The whole team is at your disposal. I have 2 more rapid fire questions for you, and then I'm going to let you go today. And sorry, give me 1 second here. I actually had a call come in randomly. I'm on a new computer, so everything's just happening while this is happening. One of my favorite questions of all time is, how has failure shaped your life?
Well, I think, you know, there's lots of things we fail at, or lots of things that don't work out how we think they will. And, you know, as cliche or whatever as it sounds, I just look at it as an opportunity to learn something from it. And then also, you know, maybe I thought this was going to be the good path, but there's something else out there for me. So just kind of putting some faith in the universe that it's going to work out how it works out. And, you know, I may have failed, but that's okay. Just going to move on from it. Take what I learned and okay, let's just go to the next thing.
I like the way you deal with stress. Actually, I got an idea from him. Like, well, write it down. Can I affect it? Can I not affect it? What are the paths forward? And then go from there. You don't have to be emotional about it, right? So I love that answer. The last and the most important question of all: how can I add value to you? Can I drive my audience to go follow you somewhere? Is, you know, there a project you're working on that you'd love them to see? What can we do for Kristina?
Well, drive your audience over to my Instagram would be amazing.
What is the actual handle? I'm going to drop it in the chat right now.
It is just at Kristina LeGault.
All one word?
All one. I think actually it has an underscore.
Underscore. Perfect. I had to ask because some other guy with my random last name took mine and I had to put a dot. So
oh, really?
I wanted to make sure. So yeah. And he runs, I think, a male burlesque club in Vegas, and he's had to DUI. So yeah, not me. So if you're searching me, I have not had a DUI.
That is not you.
No, definitely not. So everybody be aware. But yeah, everybody go follow her on Instagram. Send her a message. Kendrick, my boy. Kendrick Richardson showed up. He's an awesome dude out of Chicago. Again, he's just one of those people, same caliber as you, Kristina. I'd love you to connect with Kristina on the back end, send her a message, let her know at least one thing that you learned from this episode. Make sure you hit the subscribe and the notification button so you don't miss any future episodes of this. And definitely looking forward to what you have going on in the future, Kristina, and appreciate your time as always.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks for having me. It was really great to sit down and have a chat with you.
Awesome. See you next time. Take care.